I attempted to do this live using Restream, and I could not get it figured out. So I apologize for being late on that. So last time we were in By Design talking about DNA and encoding. So we didn't make very far, but I was talking about DNA versus evolution as a code versus versus actual evolution. So I'll start there again. So the code analogy, DNA in video games. Imagine this: a 12-year-old sits in a dark room surrounded by flickering screens. His fingers dance across the controller, piloting a character through a world of impossible beauty. Sapphire skies, molten caverns, neon cities. He's not amazed that the world exists. He's contemplating who made it. Video games are code. Code is design, and design requires a designer. Now zoom in, not on the screen, but on your body. Inside your cells are strands of DNA, a biological language written in 4 chemical letters. This code doesn't just simulate life, it creates it. It's a blueprint, a program, a digital instruction set. It tells your cells how to grow, how to repair, even how to die. It's not chemistry, it's like software, and every living thing runs on it. Just as the game cannot write itself, DNA cannot arise out of randomness. The more we learn, the more we realize we're not glitches in the system, but we're intentional. In the beginning, God created. That's not just theology. It's technological and mathematical. It's biological and deeply personal. If DNA is a code, it's information, it's a message. Well, who wrote it? Right? DNA is not merely a string of chemicals, it's a language. It contains syntax, grammar, and rules of interpretation, functionality. It behaves like a sophisticated programming language, a structured, hierarchical system of instructions that governs the form and function of every living organism. Encoded within its 4-letter alphabet: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. If I butchered those, whatever, tell me in the comments. Is the blueprint for every protein, every hair, every trait, every living cell. When scientists compare genomes across species, they often find shared sequences or homologous regions. Some interpret this as evidence for common ancestry, as proposed in Darwinian evolution. The logic goes, if humans and chimpanzees share over 98% of their DNA, we must have descended from a common ancestor. But this interpretation hinges on a key assumption, that similarity means shared lineage. Let's consider a more insightful analogy. Take Pong, 1972, one of the earliest arcade games, and then Super Mario Brothers from 1985, a landmark title that helped define a generation of gaming. These two games could not be more different in graphics, gameplay, or complexity, yet both were written in 6502 assembly language, a low-level programming language used for early game development. Despite their differences, they share key coding structures. Game loops. Both games rely on a continuous input-output cycles to run, akin to metabolic feedback loops, keeping a cell or organisms alive. Input handling. Just as a video game responds to user controls, DNA responds to environmental triggers. Temperature, light, chemical signals that activate or suppress genes. Collision detection. Video games calculate interactions between objects on screen, much like cells detect and respond to external forces, infections, or injuries. Now, no one claims that Super Mario evolved from Pong. They clearly are distinct works, designed intentionally, yet both games reflect the fingerprints of intelligence. Programmers who reused efficient code across platforms. Likewise, shared genetic code does not mean common descent. It may instead point to a designer reusing optimal patterns, reapplying successful frameworks, and embedding universal principles within different forms of life. The logic of similarity through design is as powerful as similarity through ancestry. perhaps more so because it acknowledges engineering intelligence rather than attributing complex function to unguided mutation. When we examine DNA through the lens of computer science or systems, engineering what emerges is a marvel of efficiency and foresight. Shared genetic sequence among different organisms may reflect a universal design framework similar to how game developers use shared engines or code libraries across different games within the systems. Code optimization, where reliable patterns like start cordons, promoter regions, or exon and intron architecture are reused for functionality, just as programmers reuse tried and true subroutines. Functional architecture, allowing biological systems to operate within defined parameters while retaining adaptability. Genes may be turned on or off in response to internal or external signals. So, ensuring dynamic resilience without random drift. Biological similarity in this view does not require evolutionary lineage. Instead, it becomes evidence of rational design. It becomes evidence of a single intelligent source applying consistent principles across varied life forms. Just as multiple applications can be written in the same programming language without being derivative of one another, organisms can share code without sharing ancestry. The sheer elegance of this system defies reduction to randomness. It is not an accident that genes follow syntax and logic. It's not a coincidence that living systems display redundancy, error correction, and adaptive mechanisms. These are hallmarks of foresight, not flukes of time. DNA versus artificial intelligence. Getting text messages. Artificial intelligence is often portrayed as the pinnacle of human innovation, a self-learning system capable of mimicking certain aspects of cognition. But when compared to DNA, AI appears as a crude imitation, lacking the grace, scalability, and efficiency found in nature's own code. Okay. Now, you'll see in my book, I bounce back and forth, okay, between nature's own code and referring to DNA not as God's creation, but as nature's own code. And in a sense, I'm being sarcastic because I'm taking back and saying, like, you said that nature did this, right? Well, okay, so artificial intelligence is the primo of human design, and humans can understand DNA, but we can't mimic it. So do we really understand it? If it's nature's design, right? Somebody had to design it. It is way more complicated. DNA is way more complicated than even artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is only made complicated because we're trying to do it. It's not even really intelligent. That's the thing. If it's intelligent, like do you got to go out there and tell a squirrel what to do next? You have to tell artificial intelligence, your AI, you have to tell it what to do. It doesn't just sit there and do things. It has to be given input from a person, or something has to be feeding input into it for it to react to it. Software programs are the same way. If you run a PLC, a programmable logic computer, if you run a PLC at a plant, it's got to have inputs coming into it for it to react to these inputs. If it doesn't get these inputs, it doesn't react, doesn't do anything. Or it could react errantly. Okay? Humans can react errantly, but for the most part, we don't. And that's supposed to arise from randomness. You know, like, I'm not saying that we don't make mistakes. I'm saying that, like, if you fall, you put your hands down, right? You have to make conscious effort to not do that. So you breathe without thinking about it, right? Even in this case, you have to think to not breathe. You know, like if you were to go underwater, you have to make conscious effort to not breathe, right? So you don't drown. A machine doesn't know the difference unless we program it to know a specific scenario, right? Our body reacts to so many different scenarios that sometimes we're not even aware of. Like when pregnant women have cravings, the thing that they're craving sometimes represents a nutritional source that they're lacking, something in that they're lacking. So it's very interesting that we don't know what makes up the thing that she's craving. Like, we don't have to know that, but when we do know that, it's even more amazing. The deeper you go into anything, the more amazing that it actually is. When you study deeper into the cosmos, when you study deeper into DNA, when you study deeper into electricity or magnetism, anything that you study, the deeper you go into it, and you can go pretty deep into these things, the more amazing it is that everything even works. It's why I find it so hard to believe that anybody could study science and then walk away with yeah, that's all random. Like, you're actually studying science. You have to study it. If it's random, why would you need to study it? It's going to change randomly. So it confusing to me. That's all I'm saying. So DNA outperforms AI in nearly every category. It's self-repairing. DNA has built-in mechanisms to detect and correct errors, proofreading enzymes, and mismatch repair systems that maintain genomic integrity. AI, by contrast, is fragile. A small glitch can crash the entire system. Self-replicating. A single DNA molecule can direct the formation of an entire organism through cell division and differentiation. AI cannot reproduce itself. It must be manually duplicated and maintained. Dual-coded. DNA contains instructions for both structure, hardware, and operation software. It builds the body and governs its processes. AI separates code from form. It cannot create physical machines by itself. That's already like, that's the biggest one, right? Power efficient. DNA operates trillions of processes within the human body using minimal energy. AI requires immense data centers, consuming vast amounts of electricity to simulate narrow tasks like language translation or image recognition. So one researcher captured this contrast with striking quip. DNA performs in 700 megabytes what AI needs 800 gigabytes to attempt and still fails. So the single amount of information, like that's the comparison of the information in your DNA. DNA strand, 700 megabytes, 700 million bytes. That's a lot. But then you have AI, which needs 800 gigabytes. That's 800 billion bytes. Like you just skyrocketed over, and AI still can't do everything that DNA does. So as complicated as AI is, as much energy as it uses, is still not near the power of DNA. So, but that's random. DNA is random, and AI is engineered. So I think that's enough for right now. I'll probably jump back on later today when it makes more sense. Thanks.